Mhm. Wow.
Yeah, but once you get it going, it's quite nice.
Yeah.
So
So it's got like
yeah.
initial good
Yeah.
pull and then we're going.
Thank you. I'll just wait till these folks is here. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out. Let me know when you're settled in and we'll get started. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out. That's just the echo. Yeah, it's the room, you know, takes a while before it rotates around. Yeah, our special effects. It's not Disneyland, but we do what we can with the limited budget. And you know what? I can work through that. I can work through that. Not a problem for me. We'd just like to start off our meeting by acknowledging that we're on the traditional and ancestral unceded territories of the Malichut First Nations. We'd just like to start off by acknowledging that we're on the traditional and ancestral unceded territories of the Malichut First Nations. Perfect. How'd I sound, you guys? Not bad? Good. Okay, thanks. Terrific. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Introduction of late items. Mr. Roy, do you have any late items for the agenda? No. Thank you, sir. Councilors, does anyone have any late items for our agenda? Councilor Pickard,
I wait for your echo to finish.
you don't want to talk over me, sure.
Okay, we'll try now through the chair. I just wanted to add 2 late items to the agenda. One was our AVIC resolutions and just have a quick chat since our agenda is late of how we want to put them together, do individual ones, or what topics maybe we want to put together or work on. And then a second topic to add to new items would be our draft aquaculture plan next steps. So there's been some engagement opportunities from the federal government, and we can either put a written submission together, and they're kind of due mid-January. So I think it'd be good to make a plan now soonish. We can either do a written submission on the draft transition plan, or we can request request meetings. So if you wanted to request a meeting.
So there's a proposal to add a couple of new agenda items. Councilor, all in favor of that? We're good. Okay, we'll add those items. Can you give me the title of those items? Put it under new business, Administrator Roy?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. What were the titles? Do you want to title them?
AVIC draft resolutions.
Okay,
Preliminary discussion, and then our draft transition plan, and they're in the consultation phase, next steps.
consultation phase for. That's for the, that's for the open net fish.
Open it funds, yeah, draft transition plan, next steps, so either we can do a written submission or request by that meeting.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, so I guess that no discussion on that. All in favor, we did that and it was all passed, so we're good. We can move on there. Oh, Councilor Waymire do you want to add something to the agenda?
Yeah, I'd like to, under notice of motion, I guess you could title it Federal Consultation on Taxation of Vacant Lands.
Federal consultation on taxation of federal lands, vacant lands. And accepting that into the agenda. Everybody's in favor of that? Good. Okay. So we added 3 items, 2 under new business and 1 under notice of motion. Terrific. And everybody's in favor of that, no problems. Okay. And then get a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. Moved by Councilor Pickard, second by Councilor Waymire. Any more discussion? Seeing none, call for the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Done. Next item, adoption of minutes. That the regular minutes from the November 4th, 2024 be adopted as presented. Who would care to move that? Councilor Waymire, second by Councilor Pickard. Any discussion? Seeing none, call for the question. All in favor, carried unanimously. No public or statutory business, no unfinished business. No no delegations, but a lot of folks here. Okay, move on. Administrative reports, none. I take it, Administrator Roy? Thank you, sir. Reports from Counselor Fossin, do you have a verbal report that you'd like to provide to the community, sir?
Not at this time, sir. Your worship.
Thank you, Counselor Fossin. Counselor Pickard?
So Wednesday, November 6th, I attended the BC Nature Land Trust Alliance of BC and on their webinar on Municipal Protected Areas Project. And the Municipal Areas Protected Areas Project is inspired by Canada's 2022 UN Biodiversity Conference. And it's a commitment to conserve in Canada 30% of our lands and waters by 2030, so 30 by 30. And municipal and local governments protected areas are home to rich cultural and biological diversity and are integral to achieving Canada's biodiversity commitments, including 3030. It was kind of discussing municipal support for provincial tax incentives for private landowners in communities who don't own a lot of their own land, who wish to conserve ecologically sensitive properties that are rich in biodiversity. So that was really interesting. And yeah, lots of kind of Vancouver Island government officials just trying to figure out how to preserve biodiversity on land that's not owned by municipalities. And then Friday, November 15th, Councillor Waymeyer and I had a really interesting and lengthy and informative meeting with the Grieg Seafood, Sam Tompkinson and Jennifer Woodland. And they were discussing just where they're at with the salmon aquaculture transition plan for BC, the draft plan, and just lots of information on where the industry is, what kind of pressures they're under, and what the next 5 years where they're mandated to close all their open net pen farms are. They raised a couple of really strong points that I think, you know, is good for our council to know and us to know, as the aquaculture being such a big economic driver and employer and supporter. Some of the information that was, you know, really eye-opening, and that the decision wasn't based fully on science, and the consultation to date has never included a ban on net pens. The ban is short-sighted and very political in nature and not really fair, kind of more leaves us more vulnerable communities who will lose this income and job creator with no other options for rural areas. They did highlight that in the areas they work, they do have consent with the First Nations in which they operate. So MMFN here for the Mushlet Inlet farms. And they highlighted some of the electrification challenges that would happen if all the open net pens were closed, pens in the water or on land. And the island infrastructure as it is now doesn't support what they are being mandated to do. And just, yeah, they just highlighted their history in Gold River. They're a large employer with their land-based hatchery and brood facility and plus 6 sea sites. And they are really connected with other local businesses, organizations, and charities within the community. And then, so next steps, and we'll talk about it in new business, but we have November 22nd, as part of the engagement process, a roundtable with the Parliamentary Secretary Ryan Turnbull. So we can go and I'll be attending, possibly Councillor Waymeyer virtually, and we can bring up some of these points of what a challenge it would be for rural coastal economies like us if there was a close in 5 years, and just what that looks like. You know, it's different in Ottawa than what it would look like for our village and villages like us or towns. And then Tuesday, December 10th, another engagement session for workers and communities in the transition. Monday, December 16th, another engagement session identifying economic supports for the use of innovative and clean aquaculture technology. And then we are invited to either do written submissions on behalf of the village, or we can request a meeting on behalf of the village if we want, with the draft transition plan task force. So we can talk about that later. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor Waymeyer. Excellent report, and so critical for our community. That's a major industry within our town, and we definitely need to continue to provide support to them like we have in the past. Councilor Waymar.
Yeah, without being too repetitive, the meeting was very good, very informative. Other points that were kind of brought up is that they're not going to be investing in uncertainty, especially if, you know, there is a ban planned for 5 years from now or even less. And things that Greg would be doing if there wasn't a ban, and this was more of an innovative change instead of a totally get out of the water change. And that is $500 million that was earmarked for development on the North Island, which is ceased. Hopefully it comes back if, you know, the climate politically changes. But I mean, these are the sort of consequences of when policy is kind of, for political reasons, not really backed up by its own science. So yeah, their transition plan should have been a innovation plan is what they're looking for. So I mean, if there are targets that the federal government wanted them to be meeting about, you know, sea lice and whatever it might be, then those are things they could be working on. But putting a 5-year stamp on something that would take, you know, their electricity would be 8 to 10 years, just to get the electrical lines to Zavalis. I mean, it's not really realistic to cease their operations in 5 years, even if there is that push. So yeah, I mean, really, they're looking for the removal of the ban, having a rational transition plan, stop closing those farms, and, you know, stabilize the industry. So all what I'd consider very fair points and very crucial points for us in Gold River. Also, the day before that, I talked with Brad at Western Forest Products. Not much has changed in the forestry landscape. Of course, there was just an election, but at this point, there still are no permits for Q1 or Q2 locally. Hopefully that'll change. And it's, yeah, right now they're just kind of picking off what they can chew, or sorry, picking off what is actually available. So yeah, hopefully we get some better news in the future. A permit or two would be nice, but I mean, a whole change so that permits are coming in, one here, one there, so that they, I mean, again, want to invest in certainty. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Waymar. Yeah, it's hard to follow all that. It's so critical for our community. One of the roles that the mayor has, he sits on a board, the Association of Vancouver Island Coastal Communities. And we meet every once in a while. It's an organization that does really good work. One of its principal function is economic development. So I was just wanted to just acknowledge that we did do something for one of our neighboring communities when we were down there. There was a review of the $200,000 request for the Tassus Marine Gateway, new public marine development. The project's valued at $1,507,638 as proposed for Village of Tassus. If you don't know what that really is, that's just their municipal dock. It's deteriorated to the point where it was decommissioned and they're abandoning it and somebody else is taking that one over, and then they're going to build a new one. And this is funding that was to go towards it. So I was involved in moving that and seconding that. So just acknowledgement that that's another role that the mayor has in our organization, and we always try and support communities within our region too. So that was one of the things I was involved in a meeting on November the 8th. And I do like to recognize, acknowledge staff. I know it's a little tricky business because everybody does good work for us. And sometimes when you're not talking about everybody, somebody feels left out. But when there's extraordinary things happening, I just like to recognize and acknowledge it. We haven't been able to offer swimming lessons down in our aquatic center for quite a while because we haven't had a certified staff. And it's been a real, I think, detriment to the community, especially young people that want to learn how to swim, because we live, in an area that has so much water, right? And it's great for them for safety. It's also great for health and wellness and social interaction. So I'm delighted to be able to just acknowledge and recognize that a number of our lifeguards have gone through the swim instructor training program. They were successful in doing that. Some of your kids might have actually been in some of the free lessons that was part of the training before to become an instructor. And now these folks have been certified. And I was just down there this morning working out and talking to the supervisor down there, and they've got 8 classes that they're running now for the kids in our community, right? So that was great news for me. So, again, I'd like to thank our organization, all the people that were involved in that process and getting the grants, because we actually removed a financial barrier for those people, I believe, because we got grants to pay for those courses so that staff didn't have to pay for it themselves, which I'm sure helped some people get through that program. So yeah, I'm very pleased to see that they all successfully completed the program. They're certified, and that we're offering swim lessons in our community again. And I would like to acknowledge all the work that everybody put in order to get to that point. So staff, thank you. And I'll leave it at that. Moving on then. Number 10, information items. Council received the work in progress for information. Who'd care to move that? Councilor Waymar, seconded by Councilor Pickard. Any discussions on the items in the work in progress? I think we have a report of the Nooka Trail on our agenda for today. So other than that, those are the items that have been on there for a bit. Nothing new. Nothing, no discussion. Okay, all in favor? Done, moved on. Second item is a recreation trail liability report that I see on our agenda. Who'd care to move that? Councilor Waymar, second by Councilor Fosson. Any discussion? Thank you. I believe that you were championing this, weren't you, Councilor Fosson?
Thank you through the chair. I just wanted to say thank you to the staff for their diligence in providing us with this report and doing a physical assessment of the area of this trail. And I appreciate all the information that brings clarity to our responsibility for these unmanned natural trails. So thanks to the staff, and I'm sure our community members that brought this up to me will be happy to know that we have a report to give that they can view.
Thank you, Councilor Fosson. Any other comments? I'll weigh in. I also thought it was an excellent report. Thank you, Director of Operations Doxy. I don't know if you're with us today virtually, but if you are, thank you for the report, sir. It was great. Clarified our position, outlined liabilities, looked at whether we were in compliance, which it appears that we are, with the exception of maybe some faded signs here that I'm sure that you're pursuing replacement of. But it's such an important asset for our community to have access to these walking trails. One of the blessings I think that we enjoy in Gold River is that I can step out of my house and in about 2 or 3 minutes, I'm into some terrific walking trails around town, whether it's Antler, Peppercorn, Scout Lake, Heber Trail like this. And it's such an important, there's such important physical assets in our community. And I would hate to see us have to close them down because of issues surrounding liability. But basically what I'm seeing is that we're in compliance with our requirements, that we've consulted with MIA and we're meeting our obligations. And that the only thing that I see that Director of Operations Doxy has brought to our attention is that there might be some signs that are a little faded and aged and they need to be replaced. Director of Operations Doxy, are you online, sir? Can you hear us?
Yes, sir, I am online.
Yeah, would you care to comment on anything on your report there, sir?
No, I think, well, sure. I think you've captured or picked up most of it. The signage is not within the act for the occupier's liability, but it came at heavy recommendation from MIA, ABC, and other local governments. So yeah, it's effectively the same act that applies to skate parks, more formalized play areas as well. And so that's where the reliance on the signage kind of came into play there, and why the recommendations there to keep them refreshed or updated. So.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
That's it for me. Any other discussion? Good, call for the question. All in favor, we've adopted that. Great. Number 11, reports of committees, none, bylaws, none, correspondence. Yay, here we go. What you folks have been waiting for. See, we told you I'd get there quick. But there's a motion here that council direct administration to prepare a report on the relocation of the community gardens to the park on Dogwood Drive. Anyone care to move that? Councillor Fossin? Councillor Waymeyer, any discussion? These folks came out to hear us. We better have something to say. Councillor Waymeyer.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. The helicopter park, I think, I mean, a lot of our parks could use a lot of love, and the helicopter park is definitely one of them. Yeah, the space, the sunlight, everything is kind of what the gardens need. I don't have any particular qualms about moving it there. Of course, it's, you know, call it an unfortunate situation where movement is required, but ideally we can reduce the impact for the Garden Society and maximize the community impact here. So yeah, I'm totally in favor of moving it there. As unfortunately, it's probably best steps to take it and get a report for everything. So unfortunately, there might not be a garlic season this fall, but ideally we'll be all up and running for spring or sooner. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Waymeyer. Councillor Fossin.
Thank you through the chair. Yes, I thought this was really good, and I do agree that the helicopter park would be a great location for this. The only thing that came up to my mind was the need for water. So I was hoping through the chair that we can maybe ask our director of operations if there is a water source there for the proposed water, the gardens, if it doesn't.
Good question, Councillor Fossin. I inquired about that this afternoon, and there is a water source there.
Thank you.
It should be more like a resident on this one, I think. Councillor Pickard.
Thank you to the chair. Thank you, Councillor Waymeyer and Councillor Fossin for your thoughts. And also thanks to the everyone from the Garden Society for coming out and for putting this proposal together. And we at the village really appreciate all the volunteer work that's gone on with that garden from the inception, and all the community inclusion and social inclusion and just education is provided. And it is unfortunate that there is the need to move. And I like the proposal, but I have different opinions than Councillor Waymeyer and Councillor Fossin in that I think the helicopter park is really well used by our kids. And there are a lot of younger kids and younger families moving. And the streets are quite congested. We don't have sidewalks. We have lots of crew houses now through the new provincial housing legislation. Every house can have a secondary suite, so it's more cars and more traffic. And there's a lot of natural spaces to go walk your dogs and go out to the river and stuff, but to be safe and where kids can play and we know they're fenced in there. I don't think we should carve that up and take that away from the kids unless it's the only option that we have. In a perfect world, we want to see, you know, the Garden Society thrive and have a safe and secure space with parking and washrooms, and that's accessible for everyone. And it would be great to be more central because it is so beautiful and aesthetically pleasing. And, you know, we don't really have the staff and funding in the village to plant stuff and do a garden. And so it'd be great to have this more visible. And so, yeah, I would like to see either through staff or just maybe our administrator look at any other options. If there's anywhere else along Nimkish that would be more appropriate, or maybe by the clinic that chunk of land there that's central and see if there's any other option that we can do instead of, taking away a public space where kids can do their kites and do their soccer and do their t-ball, because that is limited in Gold River. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pickard. Councillor Fawcett.
Thank you, Councillor Pickard, and through the chair. I think that's a really good point that you brought up. But I also realized too, though, that we have a brand new playground equipment, et cetera, on the school grounds, which is a larger location with more playground equipment. I do, though, understand what you're saying, and you've made me think about the parking in that area as well, and the safety of the resident kids. So I just wanted to bring that up, and thank you very much for your information.
All done, folks? I thank you all for that wonderful asset that you brought to our community. I know that it's a labor of love. All you folks have been putting in your time volunteer wise, and it's a real asset in our community. I can't imagine our community not having a community garden now after what I've seen. And I was very fortunate to be kind of involved in discussion phase right from the onset when one of my work colleagues, Lisa, was championing this, and then a lot of folks got on board and contributed. And I spent some time down there, actually quite a bit of time down there, and I see enthusiastic volunteers tirelessly putting in their time to do stuff down there. And I don't think the village put in too much money other than providing for the space. So yeah, thank you for all the work that you did. I believe that strength of a community is kind of reflective of the vibrancy of its volunteers. And if the volunteers are really active like you folks are, the quality of our life in our community is improved. So I do support a community garden. I, like my colleague, Councillor Pickard, I want to make sure that we get the right location. I'm not quite sure that the helicopter park is the right location. I would need to see a little bit more information, and also like to see some alternate locations. I know that there was some other sites that were proposed that I'd also like to look at. But in conclusion, I just want to let everybody know that you are recognized and valued, and we thank you for what you bring to the community. We're going to find a location for it. I don't know if the helicopter park is the right location. It may be in the end if we go through the process, but I would like to also look at what all the alternatives are available to us. And I think that we would be probably maintaining consultation with you folks too as we went through that, because you're the folks that are invested and are making that a reality. It's not the Village of Gold River or the Village of Gold River employees. So yeah, that's where I am with it. I think it's a work in progress, but I'm prepared to look at receiving that report from administration, and I'm certain that that's going to include a look at alternate sites that might be available. So any other discussion? Councillor Pickard.
Thank you through the chair, and thanks for your thoughts, Mayor. And I just want to say also too, one really awesome part of the proposal I want to say thanks to is just trying to not only look for a new space now that the community garden has to move, but also to try to look at future community enhancements that will benefit other people too, and try to look at if it moved to a helicopter park, the aging park infrastructure there and all the rusty metal, and looking at how to improve that for kids. So I do appreciate that was taken into consideration in the proposal, and it was to make the space better for kids and also accommodate the gardeners and make a community space with seating. So thanks for the thoughts there and putting that in the proposal.
Any other discussion, councillors? Seeing none, call for the question. All in favor? Done. New business. First item is the AVIC draft resolution. And Councillor Pickard, I'll give that over to you.
Thank you through the chair.
If you want to make a motion on that. Was there a motion there?
I don't think a
Was there
motion.
just discussion?
maybe just initial discussion to see how we want to go about doing resolutions, if we want to do any draft ones on our own, or if we have any topics that we know that, would be really beneficial to bring as a motion or as a resolution for the village, or what your guys'
Did
thoughts
you have
are.
anything in mind?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'd love to hear that.
Well, one I had in mind that I thought we could work on together and get our wordsmith, Administrator Roy, to perfect for us by the due date is maybe to ask for funding for recreation facilities in smaller communities that don't have the population or tax base, say for our pool and aquatic center that were built in a time when there was more population and we were more prosperable. And just to advocate for more funding for it, for them to keep them running because of the importance for physical health, for the swimming lessons, for seniors, for rehab after surgeries and injuries. So they're really important to keep, but the operating costs are really high. So if maybe we could put a resolution for funding for that, additional funding or any funding.
Okay. Counselors, anyone else want to comment? Good. Consultation, is that, we can move on? That was the one item that, okay. I
That
don't
was
think-
one, yeah, one idea. And I just wanted to know if anyone else had any ideas or how we want to go about it, like work on some drafts and come back at our next meetings.
I would think that was a direction for discussion because I haven't given it much contemplation, to be quite honest. Other things that are preoccupying my attention right now. So I put it down as a note. I don't mind bringing it back during our next meeting and in December, and I have some ideas to share. Like, so that could be one item on the list, but I also think there could be a few more items on the list also. So maybe we'll bring it back for our next meeting. And then the other counselors have an opportunity to reflect on that and determination if they want to submit anything else. Does that work for you? Work for the other counselors? Good, terrific. Okay, move on to the second item. Consultation over the open net fish farming. And that was a discussion item. Did you want to
Sure.
address that or
Yeah.
speak to that?
Sure, thank you.
Okay.
So we'll have coming up with the Parliamentary Secretary Ryan Turnbull, November 22nd, an engagement and consultation session on the process and the draft salmon aquaculture plan, an engagement session on the first theme, support for First Nations workers and communities in this transition on December 10th. And then another consultation on their themes 2 and 3, identifying economic supports for the use of innovative and clean aquaculture. So those are all kind of just webinars and live meetings, but we can request as a village either to have a in-person and virtual meeting with the representatives of the Interdepartmental Task Force on Salmon Aquaculture Transition in BC, if we want. And that might be really beneficial because this recently changed ministries. All of our engagement sessions up until this draft were with the DFO, so Department of Fisheries and Oceans. And now this new draft plan, it's switched ministries and it's with ISES, so Innovation, Science and Economic Development. So it's all new people, all new angles they're looking at it from. So I think if we did schedule an in-person virtual meeting would be really helpful for us as a village. Or we can decide to do a written submission on the draft transition plan and provide feedback on what we thought by January 17th.
I'm definitely in favor of in person. More impactful.
Yeah, right?
Yep.
Okay, so maybe the
The
in-person.
other counselors, did you guys have any preference on one or the other? Counselor, in person? Okay, unanimous. So do we want to give direct staff in order to set that meeting up for us?
I think so, yeah. Or, okay, so the
Gotcha.
details are, we contact the task force at ISED by December 20th and schedule a meeting with the task force between now and mid-January 2025.
And could be scheduled
person.
for an evening when we're having a community meeting so that the community could be engaged in the process? Is that a possibility?
I'm not sure.
Leave that to the administrator maybe to pursue. Yeah, I think it'd be beneficial if if they were here in a public meeting addressing the entire community in a regular meeting rather than just us. So if that's possible, do you want to work with the administrator on setting that up? Does that work for you, Administrator Roy? It can be, yes, it will. So did you want to make that motion? Sure, go ahead. You're on a roll.
So, well, we'd like to make a motion to request a public in-person meeting with representative from the Interdepartmental Task Force on Salmon Aquaculture Transition in BC.
You got all that?
Task
Mr. Roy?
Force. And
This is being taped, right?
by December 20th for an evening between now and mid-January 2025.
Preferably during.
Hopefully
regular
on a
council meeting.
council evening meeting,
Terrific.
and hopefully all the residents can come.
Someone care to move that? Counselor Fossil, second. Counselor Waymeyer wants to second it. Perfect. And no discussion because we had discussions. All in favor, that motion carried, done. That covers off your items on new business. Move on. Question period. Do we have any online questions, Administrator Roy? No, sir. Gallery, after hearing our discussion, does anybody wish to ask us any questions? If you do, you just have to sit in that chair there. We can turn the camera around so you can, so look your best. And then you can address your questions to the council. You just have to introduce yourself to name and address. It's pretty intimidating, huh? No, you guys are fine? Okay, yeah, we addressed everything that you hope to have heard tonight. Okay, good. I don't want to move on until you guys came out, then you're putting your time in this evening to, if you have any questions.
We have
we'd
one
like to-
online, your worship.
Terrific. Go ahead online. You might be muted. We're not hearing you.
Go ahead, Anita.
Just took me a second to get my camera going. Hi, Anita
Hi.
Lawrence, 396 Chamis Crescent. I
Hi,
just had
Anita.
hi. I just had a question regarding the trail. I haven't read it yet. I don't know if it's available on the village website. You were talking about safety for the trails earlier on in the agenda.
Yes, ma'am.
And I just wanted to be clear on the proposal. Is it a proposal that all the trails are safe? Is that what I was hearing? Or is it just regarding signage for the trails? And that might be a question for Joe.
Great. Mr. Roy, did you want to take that or have your associate, Director of Operations, respond to that? Oh, excuse me for a second. Counselor Fossil, do you care to respond?
Thank you through the chair. I think as we look through the report, we're looking at point number 4 on the report for recreational trails reasonably marked as recreation trails. And nowhere are we saying that and where entry for recreational purposes and where no payment or other consideration for entry is made, there is no duty of care in respect of risks willingly assumed other than not to than 2 points. I don't know, Anita, if that answers your question, but it doesn't mention anything about safety in regards to if I'm hearing your question correctly, that the village is responsible for the safety of unmaintained trails.
I
Of
feel like
Operations
it's
Johnson?
just gray area. I'll have to read the report, but from my understanding that you have written a report saying that all the trails that you're responsible for are safe.
No, that is not what has been in the report. It was just a report on recreation trails.
Okay, I will read the report. Is it available on the website?
Yes, it's on the website with the agendas.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Anita, if after you've read it, if there's any other questions that you have, you could probably address them to the office. Great. Second question online? Go ahead, please.
Hi, sorry. It's Candace Baker at 414 Donner Drive.
Hi,
So I just
Candace.
have a question today in regards to community garden. So
Right.
we've put a lot of time and effort and money into the garden where it's at.
Exactly.
So is there any reason as to why the lease isn't going to be renewed there? I've heard a lot of rumors, but I haven't heard specifically what the reason is for that.
And most of the discussion has been in camera. So I'll just pass that on to our CAO because I'm not quite sure what type of information we can share. I wasn't sure if we rose and report on anything. Administrator Roy, would you care to respond to that?
When the Community Garden Society approached us, they were looking for a long-term lease. At that time, I advised them we were not in a position to enter in any long-term lease discussions due to that council was looking at the future of the JCC. That's about all we can go into at this time.
May not be 100% satisfactory, but does
No.
that answer your question? Yeah, kind of probably you've got probably more information through the grapevine than you just got there, but yeah. And unfortunately, because of legal obligations, we're not able to disclose it much more than that at this point. So, yeah. Other than to say that that site may not be available going forward in the future. So that's why we've taken the position as the Village of Gold River. Any other questions? None? Great. Moving on then. Number 16, notice of motion, federal consultation of taxation on vacant lands. Would you like to run with that, Councilor Waymire?
Yeah, so our next regular meeting, I'll be making a motion to have council and staff complete the federal consultation on taxation of vacant lands. I guess it's a questionnaire. It's kind of interesting that we had our AVIC resolution on taxation on or change the assessment of vacant. How did we word it? Yeah, so to have a separate class in the assessment for vacant lands, and now the federal government is looking for something very similar and is looking for input for from provinces, municipalities, and any stakeholders. So I'll definitely provide a little more information for next meeting, but potential questions of the questionnaire include what are thoughts on vacant land tax potentially applying to your community? Are the reasons that may help explain why some vacant land is not being actively developed in your community and so forth. So basically this motion is to have us fill this out because it'll lend a lot more weight if it's coming from council instead of just from an individual.
And are you making a motion then that you're going to provide to the administrator that's going to be on our agenda for the next meeting? Is that the intention, Councilor Runner?
Yes, it'll fall under notice of motion for next time.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Terrific. Any other discussion? Call for the question. All in favor? Done. Great. Thank you, sir. We're not going into camera. We don't need a rise report on anything. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Councilor Pickard, second by Councilor Waymire. No discussion. That's good. All in favor? We are done. Thank you, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for coming out. We don't usually get a crowd